Hello everyone, I'm Satyajit and welcome back to my channel. You're watching the Python course playlist and today's video is on Python loops, functions and file handling. This particular video will be dedicated to loops and iterations. However, we will be learning about functions, lambda functions and file handling part in the next videos. I hope you're already clear with the previous topics. If not, please go back to the videos in my playlist and study them. Link to the videos are already in the description below. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified on my future videos. Let's get started. Now, till now, we have already understood about the basics of Python. We understood about the various data structures, the various data types. In data structures, we understood what are lists, what are tuples, sets, dictionaries. Today's video is more on the coding part. Maybe we will be starting with the very first code in Python today. So today's video will be dedicated to loops and iteration. So we'll see how to use loops, how to iterate over a particular list, and all these kind of activities we will be doing in this particular session. So our very first topic will be let's say we'll have to write a program to check value in variable x is even or odd. So the very first program, let me write down in the markdown. Check whether a number is even or odd. Now, why we are doing this exercise is because, we will understand loops and iterations better if we try to solve this kind of problems. Okay, so let's say I give my number here as, let's say, anything for the time being. So what we will do is, now let's try to print whether this number is divisible by 2 or not. Now 0 means, that means this number is divisible by 2, right? Now if I have 11, 1 means it is divisible, it's not divisible by 2, right? Very similarly, I'll just try with different examples. This will be 0, this will be 1. Okay, so anything like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, all these numbers are going to be divisible by 2 and they are hence called as even numbers, right? And all the other numbers which are not divisible by 2 are going to be the odd numbers. So let's try to write a function for this. So if x equals to 0, that means, so whatever x I am passing, if that is divisible by 0, that means if the quotient, if the remainder of this particular statement is 0, then print it as even. Else, print it as odd. So I'll just change it to else. Else, I don't have to write this entire clause because anything which doesn't come here will be coming here. So that's the basic idea, and that's the basic beauty about the if else clause. So there can be multiple if, else if, else if, else if that is also possible. We'll talk about the nested if else functions in one of our future questions, but yeah, for the time being, I think that should be more than enough for you to get started. So if x percentage 2, that means if the remainder of this particular function is 0, that means it's a even number, else it's a odd number. So let's try to see. So it's telling that it's a odd number. So apart from that, we will also pass some arguments like x is an even number. I'll just copy this. Is an odd number. So now it says me 121 is an odd number. Let's try it with different numbers. 10 is an even number. Okay. 101 is an odd number, right? So let's move ahead to the next problem. I hope you are clear with the basic loop operations, or you can call it as like loops and iteration is basically related to each other because we iterate over a particular list or a particular values and then run it through loops to find solutions for these kind of problems. So let's say the very similar problem, but what I'll do is I'll not hard code x value. Instead of that, I will try to take the X value as an input from the user. So in that case, what will happen is int of input. Okay, so let's try to do this. 121. So 121 is an odd number. Now you can also add some text here like enter your age. Enter your age 21. 21 is an odd number. Or else you can just change your statements to 21. Okay, I mean that should be more than enough for us to understand for the time being. Right. Now what else? Okay, let's see a very fun example maybe. Now based on your age, we should define whether you are allowed to go for a party or not. So only people with less than 18 and more than 60 or 50 are not allowed for the party. Okay, that means 18 or above and maybe 50 and below are allowed for the party. So let's try to build this particular example. I'll just okay. Now let's try to do this particular code. I will just similarly I will take an input from the interface, or you can say from the console. Enter your age, and then if x less than 18 or x greater than 50 or greater than equals to or greater than 50, that means 50 is also allowed. Okay, less than equals to 18 or this, then print sorry, you are not allowed for the party. Okay, now I'll after if not, that means else. You are or else welcome to the party. Right? So let's try to run this program. Enter your age 21. Welcome to the party. Enter your age 18. You are not allowed for the party. Let's make it less than 18. Okay. 18. Welcome to the party. 17. Sorry, you're not allowed for the party. Right? Fun exercise. We are able to understand what is the basic understanding. I mean, we are able to get the basic understanding on if else statements, right? Now, what else? Maybe let's try to write a program which offers various discounts on purchase bills. Like, okay, let me just copy this particular piece of code. Program which offers various discounts on purchase bills. Very simple program. Again, just if else program. Let's try to do this. Maybe if my shopping total, that means my total bill is 5,000. If my shop total is greater than equals to 5,000, then print you have won a voucher of rupees 1,000. Okay, just for fun. Else, if shop total maybe greater than equals to 2,500, print you have won a discount, sorry, you have won a voucher of rupees 500. Else, you can add your else if, whatever you want to, right? Else, oops, no discount for you. Something like this. Now, Obviously, we have taken this value as a hard-coded value. Let's take it from the input itself. Input your build amount, right? So let's bring it on. Okay, before running this program, so this is a generic if else statements, but in Python we don't accept else if. Instead of else if, you can use elif. Okay, so if, then else if, then else. That means if this, it will fall in this category. If not, else, if this, it will fall in this category. Else, if it doesn't fall in any of the categories, else it falls in this category, right? So instead of else if, in Python we use elif. Okay, let's try to run this. Input your build amount 5,000. You have won a voucher of 1,000 rupees. Input your build amount 2500. So I have won a voucher of 500 rupees. I'm sorry for my language. 2600. You have won a voucher of 500 rupees. Let's say $1,000. Oops, no discount for you, right? Fun exercise. So I think you have a basic understanding on else if statements and how to run over loops. So our next exercise will be on iterations. Let's try to understand what are iterations. Let me just redo this particular markdown before this. Do it here. Okay, I'll just do it. Loops. 3 hashtags. So let's give 3 hashtags here. Iteration. Okay. So what is iteration? Iteration is nothing but you iterate over a loop, right? Or you iterate over a list. That's basically iteration. Now, when I talk about iteration, I mean, the English meaning or the dictionary meaning is that it's a repetition of a process, right? Or the repetition of an utterance. So ultimately, for example, I have a list of 10 numbers. I want to run through a loop of this particular list and tell which of them is an odd number and which of them is an even number. So in these kind of problems, we'll have to run through loops. That means we'll have to run through that particular list one by one. So first element, then second element, then third element, something like that. Okay, so let's try directly, let's try to understand. Let's see the basic problem. Let's try to define iterate over a list of integers. Let's try to iterate over a list of integers and just print it. So I'll just define a list 1 equals to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Simple. Now I want to print the numbers one by one. Okay, now obviously you can tell me that, hey, I can print it this way, right? Now this way it will be printed as a list, right? It's a single list, but I want 10, then 20, then 30, then 40, then 50, something like that. So what I'll do is for I in list 1, that means for each element in list 1, now this I is just a variable. You can define anything. For num in list 1, print num. Okay, I mean num is nothing but it's a user defined variable. Like you want that for number in your list, that means for each element do this particular execute this line. That means print it. Okay, now what's next? Slowly let's move ahead. Now let's iterate over a string. Iterate over a string. Now let's define a string first. String 1 equals to let's say Odisha. I'll just write my state's name. And for, again, you can make it for num in str1 print num. That's also fine, but yeah, just make it little more user readable, or you can say user understandable. As we are iterating over a string, that means we're iterating over a character, right? Each character, we want each character to be printed. So let's name it as ch, just for our better understanding. Now once I run this, it already knows that this is a string and I have to iterate it over each character. So O, D, I, S, S, H, A. Right. Now let's try to iterate over a dictionary. Now obviously if you want to do some exercise, like for example, if you want to find whether, okay, let's do it in the next let's do it phase by phase. Let's try to understand the basics and then we'll move ahead with the difficult problems. So iterate over a dictionary. Let's just iterate over a basic dictionary. Let me define students data. Let me define it. One, let's say 25 age. 2, 28. Okay, 3, 4. Let me just copy paste it. 4, 5. Anything. Varun, Sid, Ravi, 22, 23, 24. Okay, let's just run it. Okay, running fine. That means our dictionary is created properly. So already we know that dictionary is nothing but it's a combination of a key value pair, right? So we cannot iterate just over element by element, right? Because it's a key value pair. So what we can do is for key val in students data dot items. That means for each item. Now each item is a combination of key value pair. It's a combination of key and a value. So this is how it has to be done in terms of dictionary dot items. I'm sorry, I just ran it by mistake. Print key val. Let's print it. So this is my final output. If I just want to print the keys, so these are my keys 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to print the values Sam, Sharma, Ravi, Sid, Varun. Now let's try to see how to iterate over the keys. Okay. Same kind of example for key in students underscore data dot keys. Print keys. So these are my keys. Okay. Now let's try to understand what is range, because most of the problems in Python you will be using your range function as well. So let's try to understand what is range. Okay. So range is nothing but it generates a range of values. Now let's say range 1 to 101. That means from 1 to 101. Okay, that means if you are running for a loop of range 1 to 101, that means from 1 till 101 the loop will be run. That means 101 times. Now let's try to take a small example of range and try to understand. So I'll name it as iterate over a range of values. So for I in range of, let's say 1 to 5, let's make it simple. Print I. See. So it remains same. The concept remains same, because even in list and even in tuples, when we were doing the slicing operation, if you just remember, we were providing 0:2, right? That means from the 0th index till the first index. Okay. So similarly like this, if 1 to 5 means 4 elements. Similar to 1 to 101 means 100 elements. My mistake, I told that it was 101 elements, but no, it's 100 elements, right? From 1 to 100. Similarly, for range 1 to 5, I'm going to print 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now what else? I think that's it for now. Maybe the basics are done. Let's try to understand what are comprehensions as well, because that's also very important. Let's try to explore comprehensions. Okay. Okay, so let's try to understand what are comprehensions. Now, basically what happens is a list comprehension is a syntactic construct available in some programming languages for creating a list based on existing lists. Now we'll try to understand what are the practical applications of comprehension slowly. Let's try to create a list first. Let me create it, and we'll slowly understand. Don't have to panic. Automobiles, Honda, Benz, Maruti, Kia. Okay, some randomly I have created, and let's say list 2 equals to empty. For I in list 1, L2 dot append length of I. That means I'm appending the length of this particular list in the list 2. Now if I just do I, let's try to do it and then see. Once done, I'm just going to print list 2, right? Sorry, I have to provide list 2. Okay, see, that means the details from list 1 goes into list 2. Let me rerun it with a different piece of code. Here what I'm doing is length of I. That means I'm appending the length of these particular values in list 2. So this is how it becomes. Automobiles is 11. That means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 5, 4, 6, 3. Right? Very simple. Now there is one more way to do this as well. Let me do it that way also, because there are multiple ways one particular thing is possible. Okay, so I have created a list. Now let's create a list consisting of length of each element from the above list, right? Again, we'll try to repeat the same method. Sorry, the same particular. We are trying to achieve the same output, right? So let's try to build this. Now what I can do is, instead of creating this null array or the null list, list 2 equals to length of I for I in list 1. That means for each element of list 1, print the length of I, or append the length of I in list 2. So let's try to run this. You are getting the same output. So you can do it your way, but I would suggest you to get started with this particular approach, because this is easier for us to understand and easier for us to code as well. Now what else? Let's try to do some dictionary based comprehensions. For example, let me create another list. Let me just copy this. List 1 equals to this. Let's create a dictionary. I, length of I for I in list 1. That means I'm creating a dictionary. Sorry, length of I. I'm creating a dictionary where your keys will be as it is, like the values of the list, and your values will be the length of I. Let's try to run this and try to print D. So this is how it looks like. Automobiles 11, Honda 5, Benz 4. Now obviously, if you don't want to do this, if you want to do a longer approach, that's also possible. So you'll have to iterate through each of the lists, and manually you'll have to run your for loop. So it will be a little bit big also, but yeah, for understanding purpose, it will be better. So that's all about the comprehensions. I would like you to play around this particular data, or mostly in the loop section. Try to run any piece of code, or try to just play around with particular examples, and then maybe you will have a better understanding on loops. And yeah, of course, after the entire course is done, we also have a vast amount of coding practices which we'll be doing in each and every video after the course is over, after our study is done. And in that also, while problem solving, I will be explaining you the exact steps or the exact ways how to solve this particular problem. Okay, so that's it for today's video. That's it for loops and iterations. In the very next video, I'll be talking about functions and then lambda functions and then file handling. So stay tuned. Please like the video if you really like it, and share it among your friends, and try to subscribe the channel. Thank you guys.